Morning, everyone. My name is Megan White, and I'm Deputy Director of Programs at NYSCA. Welcome to our Support for Targeted Opportunities webinar. We are so excited to be joined today by attendees from across all 10 regions of the state. We're also immensely grateful for the recognition our sector, as is reflected in Governor Hochul and the New York State Legislature's investment of $127 million for the arts in FY 2024. This was a team effort. I want to thank all of you for your work in reaching your legislators and local media regarding arts funding. NYSCA launched our FY 2024 guidelines and application manual on May 16th, and our application portal opened yesterday. We highly encourage all applicants to read these guidelines thoroughly before reaching staff with questions and attending webinars and office hours. These materials can be found on the NYSCA website under the For Applicants tab. Today's webinar will be an overview of our FY 2024 Targeted Opportunities Grants. We will cover such topics as eligibility, key dates, and the application process. Many thanks to those of you who submitted questions in advance. We'll have a dedicated Q&A session following the presentation, and you can still submit questions using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. We encourage you to listen to the entire presentation before submitting your questions today. We have also budgeted time to go over in case there are a lot of questions and your schedule allows. A reminder that this webinar will be recorded and posted on the NYSCA website. We'll share that link with you when it's live. I'm now pleased to introduce NYSCA Program Directors Fabiana Chu Rinaldi and Leanne Tintori, who will take us through the opportunity. Welcome, Fabiana and Leanne.
Thank you, Megan. Can you hear me? Good. So yes, here we are to talk about targeted opportunities, and there is a very important first step for everyone applying to NYSCA. And Leanne, are you ready? Oh.
I'm ready now.
Okay, good. So for the first step, let's go. 1,
2,
3. Pre-qualification. Yes. All applicants must pre-qualify. All organizations must pre-qualify in order to apply to the New York State Council on the Arts. You would do this in the New York State Grants Gateway. It is an online portal. It is separate than the New York State Council on the Arts portal. So this is what you do first. And we would like to urge you to not wait until the last minute to start the process. It takes a few days if you haven't done it. And yes, indeed, all nonprofit organizations in the state of New York must be pre-qualified to do business with New York State in order to apply for grants from New York State. Next.
New applicants, returning applicants, but new applicants, please we cannot urge you enough to begin this process as soon as possible, immediately, yesterday, in fact. Returning applicants, note that your pre-qualification status does expire annually. So check in, make sure that you are in fact pre-qualified, and check in to see when your vault is scheduled to expire, just to be sure that everything is in place by the application deadline. All organizations, as Fabiana said, and you will hear us underscore it multiple times, must be pre-qualified by the application deadline at 4 o'clock on July 13th. There are no exceptions. If you have any questions, contact our help desk. We have a wonderful specialist on site, and Marnie Geller, and she can certainly help you with any challenges that you may have. Next slide.
So there are some key dates that have already been posted on our website, and you have them right here in front of you as well. So our guidelines were posted on May 16th. So it's been a couple of weeks already, and many of you have already reached out to us with questions, and we are processing them as they come in. The application portal opened yesterday, and once again, we're already fielding some of the questions that are coming from many of you. thousands of questions will come in by the time the deadline approaches. So the deadline and when the portal will close will be July 13th at 4 p.m. That's a hard deadline. There are no extensions and no exceptions to that. And many of you have already started on your proposals. And if there's one thing that I would like to share with all of you is, don't be the one who hits submit on July 13th. And here is why. If for any reason you encounter any glitches on your application, it may be really difficult to get through, especially when the pressure is on. So I would much rather have you encounter those glitches, if there are any, a couple of days before, so that we can all troubleshoot it. Next.
Our opportunities, our funding opportunities. This is just a quick overview. It's obvious, I think, to most of you, but in fact, you must be a nonprofit organization, either incorporated or registered to do business in New York State, a Native American tribe in New York State, or a unit of government in New York State municipalities. Your place of business, your principal place of business must be in New York State. If your organization is unincorporated, some opportunities offered by NYSCA do permit fiscal sponsorships. So please review the guidelines on fiscal sponsorships. Next slide.
It's also pretty important that you reach out to us with questions, but before you reach out to questions, go look at the guidelines and base your questions on what the guidelines say. That helps us, and give us a little context about what it is that you are looking for, rather than to ask us, what can I apply for? Tell us more about what you do and what you would like to apply for. Anyway, this opportunity is targeted opportunities this year, features 3 specific opportunities. One is folk and traditional arts apprenticeships. The other one is rehearsal and studio space for performing arts. And the third one is performing arts residencies. I'll tell you a little bit about the folk and traditional arts apprenticeships, and Leanne will share with you about the other 2. Next. Next. So for the folk and traditional arts apprenticeships, we believe that apprenticeships can stimulate the continuity of traditional arts. Apprenticeships presents an opportunity for practitioners to study with a master folk artist from their own community. Some of the things that we will need in this particular proposal will be a detailed study, a study plan. That should be part of it. It's kind of like a curriculum. What are you planning to do when? The support will be awarded to both, is to be shared between the master and the apprentice. And the awards are $10,000 flat. The good news is there's no match this year or in the last couple of years. So we do not expect you to come up with any additional funds for this grant. And the other important thing about it, and the same thing will be true for the other opportunities and every opportunity that NYSCA offers, this funding is for January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2024. Yeah, next. There are some areas that you will be addressing in your proposal. There are 2 criteria really that we asked you to address in your proposal. One is creativity and the other one is managerial. And under creativity, we asked you to describe the folk art form that will be explored in the apprenticeship and which tradition it is rooted in. We also want to know about the folk artists, the master folk artists, their experience in practicing the art and where they learned it from. And we also want to know who the apprentice is and what their experience has been practicing the particular folk or traditional art form. We want to know how the apprentice was selected. And we also would like to know if the apprentice and the master have worked together before, and to tell us why this apprenticeship is needed in order to develop additional skills or repertoire, if in fact they've worked before together, and what level of ability of accomplishment will be achieved through this particular apprenticeship. Next. Managerial is another area that you will have a chance to address in your proposal. Like I said before, a session by session study plan that discusses how the plan was developed and who developed it. We would also like to know if and when you will do your public presentations. Actually, we'd like to know when you will do your public presentations, where, in what form, and whether the sessions are going to be recorded. I would like to know how the apprentice will practice the tradition after the apprenticeship is over. And as I said earlier, the grant will be split between the master, artist, and apprentice. It doesn't necessarily have to be exactly half-half, but we would like to know what that share will be. And a sponsor and organization can take up to $500 from the $10,000 grant. So in terms of support materials, we would like a letter of commitment from the master saying that they are willing and able to do this. And obviously there's additional information in the guidelines about the audiovisual work. And one of the most important things about the audiovisual work that I like to mention is that they should not be password protected. So if for any reason we encounter something that the panelists cannot read, we move on. We don't necessarily reach out to you saying, would you please open it up for us, because we only have so much time to go over all the proposals that we get. So it is your responsibility to make sure that those links open for anybody who has received those links. I think, Leanne, we're ready for you.
Next slide.
Next. Yeah.
Okay, rehearsal and studio space for performing arts. Next slide. Couple of things that I would like to underscore. You can read the slide, I'm sure, but a couple of things that I would like to underscore is that this opportunity is really for organizations to apply to offer rehearsal space on a first come, first served basis to the public, to the artist public. This is an opportunity we really are trying to make access to much needed rehearsal space available to artists across the state in your communities. These are really very hard and fast requirements that you can see here in the bullet points. You must offer a minimum of 1,000 hours. You can offer more, but we require a minimum of 1,000 hours at a rate of $10 an hour or less. Can be free if you're able to, but the maximum rate that can be charged under this opportunity is $10 an hour. Because the thrust of this opportunity is to really make rehearsal space accessible to performing artists. No single artistic entity may use more than 10% of the allocated hours. Fiscally sponsored organizations are not eligible in this category. This is a direct grant to the nonprofit. One request per organization, and you can see the award ranges that we've been able to provide in the past. Also, to note, the applicant organization may not use their subsidized rehearsal space hours for their own programs or for their own residency artists. This is really intended to be made available and accessible to the public, and it must be publicly marketed. You will see in the when you view the application itself and the guidelines, we do ask you for a marketing plan. How are you promoting this to your community at large? Next slide, please. So 3 criteria. Rehearsal space is reviewed based on 3 criteria: creativity, managerial and fiscal, and service to the public. The creativity response that we're looking for, the information that we're looking for in the creativity response is rather nuts and bolts. It's really numbers and stats. An estimate of the number of artists and organizations that you anticipate you will be serving through this program. The total number of hours, obviously, you project for this for NYSCA subsidy purposes, and also give us the schedule. How many days a week, days and times you will be making the space available to your artists. Many past applicants or past grantees, they're available 24/7. They have, numeric access to the space. Others are have very prescribed hours. All is fine. All is eligible. We just need to know what your approach is to this. Also, we'd really like to know why you're doing this. How does service to artists by offering affordable rehearsal space really dovetail with your organization's overall mission and values and intent? So this is an opportunity to really tell us a little bit more about your organization and the services that you provide. Next slide, please. So public service, again, offered to the public. Tell us primarily the primary artistic disciplines that you are serving. Different performing arts disciplines have different needs. Dance companies need a sprung floor. So tell us a little bit about the space and certainly how it aligns with the projected artists and their disciplines that you plan to make this available to. Again, we ask you for how this subsidized space will be promoted and marketed. We are very interested in knowing how you are planning to reach artists that may not be within your immediate purview or on your immediate screens. We're really looking to reach those artists that are often isolated in underrepresented communities. So what kinds of interesting strategies for engagement and communication are you using to reach some of these communities? And then if you can also tell us how that correlates back to your own organization, how it enhances the overall work of your own organization, I think that's a big plus. Give us a good description of the booking process. How does it happen? Is it electronic? Who manages it? Again, really nuts and bolts. Describe the physical space and do list the amenities or equipment that you offer in conjunction with the space. So this is really about very much how the business of offering the space and the services that you provide through the space is all about. Next question, or next slide, sorry. Managerial fiscal, again, tell us whether you are a returning grantee or if you have rented rehearsal space previously. We've often had grantees that have always offered rehearsal space at a higher rate, and this is an opportunity for them to continue to do so, but to really offer it at a subsidized rate for their NYSCA hours subsidized rate. So do tell us your current rate schedule for your rentals, and most importantly, what you will be charging under the NYSCA subsidy hours. Describe or tell us who the staff member is that administers the scheduling and oversight of the rehearsal space, and please give us a little information on the health and safety measures and how that plays out now, even in post-COVID times. Next slide. Performing arts residencies. That's our second opportunity. Next slide. This is an opportunity for the artist. This is an opportunity for an artist to apply for a residency or for an organization to apply to have an artist in residence in their venue. The priorities are very clear. We are really looking to bring work outside of New York City and outside of the applicant's own home county. So often an artist based in New York City, this is an opportunity to engage with an organization upstate and develop a multi-week residency within that community to develop their own work, continue to develop their own work, but also to engage with that local community through workshops, classes, and public performances. It really is a time for the company itself, for the artist itself, to engage in developing their new work. But at the same time, it's an opportunity to really have an eager community to see their work and really begin a dialogue with that community. We prioritize projects that bring underrepresented art forms into that community and region. You have some regions of the state that have tons of theater, but no dance, that sort of thing. So really kind of tell us the niche that you're filling. The residency must include a public performance, some type of public event that is performance-based. Yes, it could be a showcase, or it could be really a pretty complete work that is performed. Fiscally sponsored applications are not eligible in this category. I will just reiterate, step aside and reiterate, for targeted opportunities, the rehearsal and studio space for performing arts and performing arts residencies do not accept sponsored applications. Both of those opportunities must be direct applicants. And you can only submit one request per opportunity, per organization. So if you have an organization and, I don't know, you can offer rehearsal space and you're doing a residency upstate, that's all eligible. But it is one request for each opportunity, and you can see the range, generally the range of awards that we make. Next slide, please. So criteria, residencies also are evaluated based on the 3 criteria that I mentioned earlier. Creativity, we want to know the who, what, where, when. So give us the location, time frame, and so forth. What the goals of your residency are for this recreative time upstate, and describe how this residency is really aligning with your own mission and vision, the significance of this residency within your field, but within the development of your own work as well. Next question, or next slide. Public service, really important. We want to know, this is really a lot about outreach and public performance, as well as the development of an artist's own work, but we really want to know what the outreach and engagement plans are for this particular residency. We want to know what the marketing and audience development plan is to promote your residency and the public activity. And in particular, again, efforts to really reach underrepresented individuals within that community as well. Give us a good description of the targeted audiences and community that will be served during this residency. And also spend a little bit of time and tell us really how you will reflect on this residency, how you will be evaluating its challenges, its successes, and so on. I think NYSCA is the one place, and I say this all the time at these, whenever I'm talking to applicants, NYSCA is the one place that's really interested in hearing what worked and what didn't work. What didn't work is not a penalty. What didn't work is actually really exciting, because a smart organization or artist will be able to digest that information and adjust their work going forward, or adjust their strategies going forward. So this is a really nice opportunity to share a little bit about your organization or the artist's own reflection on their process. Next slide, please. Managerial fiscal. We want to understand what the host organization is contributing towards your residency. So if you are a dance company and you are going to be in residence at XYZ Arts Center, we want to know what the arrangement is and what the host will be contributing to this process. We hope that the host will also be considering an artist fee to the resident company as well. The grants we make will probably not cover a company's 3-week residency upstate. So we do want to understand how the host organization is contributing to this. We want to understand how your artists are going to be compensated for this project. And we do want to know the specifics, number of rehearsal hours, performance fees, how they're compensated. Are they on staff? Are they independent contractors? How much are they being paid? And also, obviously, the number of artists involved in your residency as well. Health and safety measures, obviously, and let us know if you have conducted residencies previously in other parts of the state. That really sort of helps us to understand that you know how to approach a residency and what's really needed, and the kind of give and take that happens between the artist and the host organization. Next slide, please. I think this is you, Fabiana. NYSCA tips.
Yes, it is me. So we have a few tips for you regarding filling out these applications. You will have a separate response box for each question. One of the things that I would say is that because the panelists read through hundreds of applications, just make sure if you can use, some line spacing, some capitals here and there, organize your text so that it's not one heavy block. So help the readers read by putting your questions in the separate boxes, as well as a little bit of formatting if it's allowed by the online application program. And I think it does. So you will be asked to submit to upload supporting materials, and you can see a list of those in the guidelines. If you're submitting a video link, make sure that you tell us where to watch it, from what timestamp to what timestamp, or to just submit the edited clip. There are limits to how much content we can watch. I believe 10 minutes is the general guideline, but depending on the program and the discipline, it may be more or less. And make sure, as we said earlier, that the links are open to anybody who receives that particular URL, that it is not password protected. We're not able to request passwords after the fact, and that these links remain good and valid and openable, if that's a word, through December 31st, 2023. And make sure you provide some recent work samples, not something that you've submitted to NYSCA before for consideration. So those are pretty much, pretty good tips.
Fabiana, if I can jump in, I just want to say that these tips really apply across all of our opportunities. Honestly, this is just really good information to have that apply really across support for organizations, support for artists, and certainly targeted opportunities as well.
That is so true. Thank you. Next. So to recap, we've talked about the 3 different areas in targeted opportunities where you can apply. One was folk arts apprenticeships, the other one is rehearsal and studio space, and the third one being performing arts and residencies. And each one of them you will be evaluated based on how you answer the questions to creativity and managerial. And in the case of rehearsals and performing arts residencies, there is an additional public service component in there. Next. So we were just talking about how things will be evaluated. And what I really like about being able to share this with you is that this is exactly what we're going to be sharing with the panel, the review panelists. Yeah. These are peer reviewers that will be tasked with reading your proposals, and we will instruct them to follow this rubric. This is the rubric for folk art, folk and traditional arts apprenticeships. There's the creativity section and the managerial and fiscal section, and you can see these in the guidelines. And so basically they'll be scoring your proposals based on how well you the answers reflect these goals and these prompts. Next.
How will my application be evaluated? The rubric for rehearsal space and performing arts, as Fabiana mentioned earlier, includes all three criteria: creativity, public service, managerial, and fiscal. This is what our peer panelists are looking for. We do use a peer panel of individuals across disciplines throughout the state as well. They come together, and you can see here, I won't read it off to you, but you can see here, these are the points that they're looking at when reviewing your application. Next slide.
So scoring, you heard me talk about the scores that the panelists will assign to each of these answers. Next, please. And so we use a scale of 0 to 5, and the higher the score, the better it reflects a strong response to the rubrics and the goals. Next. And each criterion will be given a rating of 5 to 0, and the application will receive an overall score. Anything that scores 2 and below will not be considered for support. And that has been the case for many years now. We've used this scoring, these ratings for a number of years, and they've worked fairly well for us. Next. Leanne, you're next.
How is my application evaluated? As we've mentioned, peer panels, advisory panels play a key role in our evaluation process. They really are the core of our evaluation process. Each panelist evaluates each application. We review the application, all social media, anything that is publicly available, all social media, website, and of course your work samples. Do make sure that your website has been updated and fresh, so that we're not looking at information from 2 years ago. That really doesn't work out well in an evaluation in a panel process. But each panelist evaluates all the information. Each panelist scores each application using the rubric that Fabiana described and applied to each of the relevant criteria. At the end of the day, each application aggregates down to one final score, and that's the important score. That's really what we look at and what is considered when the grant award rationales are developed. Again, nothing under any application with a 2 or less in any aggregate score of 2 or less in any of the 3 criteria does automatically make the application ineligible for funding. Basically, the way that it works, there is a staff review, the panels meet, we do discuss the applications, commentary is provided. So the panelist process is really critical to NYSCA's grant process. I don't know what we would do without panelists and the amount of work that they deliver on our behalf and on your behalf in evaluating these applications. We are currently accepting panelist applications. I'm not sure when that's going to close, but if you are interested in being a panelist, you will find a panelist nomination form on our website, and you can self-nominate. Yeah, so next slide. Frequently asked questions. So If I apply for support for organizations, can I also apply for targeted opportunities? Yes, you may. Both categories are very discrete from one another. The budget should be discrete, obviously, but yes, you can apply for one request in any of our opportunities if they are relevant. Is there a template for the project budget? Nope, there's not. You can submit a project budget in whatever format best suits your proposal. I would think about the format that you use in terms of communicating to someone who may not know anything about your organization or your work or anything. So just make it very clear. Fabiana, do you want to add anything for expenses for apprenticeships, or does that pretty much answer it for you as well?
No, that is true. Actually, we do give some guidance about what we want to know in terms of how you're spending the $10,000. And actually, that's a question that's coming up in the next slide, Leanne. So let's see the next slide. How about that?
Next slide. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. So we got some questions ahead of time, so we're going to answer them, and then we're also going to answer some of the ones that are coming in on the question and answer field. And if we don't get to your question, please make sure that you email us. You can also include your email on the question and answer you would like, or send a message to us via the chat and tell us how we can reach out to you. If your question is anonymous, then we won't be able to reach out to you. But our goal is to answer some of the more general questions, and it's impossible for guidelines to be able to answer all questions from the thousands of questions that we get every year. So we'll try to address them if your question is very specific to your organization or to your situation. So must the master artist be in New York State? Actually, this question has come up in a couple of different ways last year and this year. Must the master and the apprentice be in New York State? The apprentice, most definitely, because the idea is that we're investing in the artists here in the state of New York, and this is state funding. So a lot, the great majority of the funding must stay within New York State. That kind of makes sense, right? Regarding the master artist, the answer is generally yes. You should reach out to me if you have any questions about that. There may have been some situations in the past where it was impossible to find a master for that particular art form within the state. So it's all kind of a fine line, and we have to figure out fiscally who you pay and all that. So you reach out to me for that very specific question. But generally the speaking is yes, it's New York State funding for New York State. Can some of the apprenticeship funds be used for supplies or other expenses related to the project? Yes, although the majority of the funds should go to the master and the apprentice, you may designate a small amount for supplies that you need for this apprenticeship, and you should signal that in your managerial answer. Next, please.
Can organizations that fiscally sponsor an apprenticeship charge a sponsorship fee? Yes. Fiscally sponsored applications may include up to 5% of the grant amount for a sponsorship fee. When will I find out the decision on my application? You will find out, or we will send out our notifications no later than December of this year. Our panel process will start this summer sometime, run through the fall, and then it goes through our committee and council process. And by the time we have everything all set, it probably will be later in the calendar year. So certainly December.
Right. And once again, this is for funding for calendar 2024.
Yes.
So you'll know before the year starts.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Next and last slide. That's
so yeah, sure. If you have any questions, and I'm sure you do, for technical questions, submit them to help@arts.ny.gov, and that is the email you will use. And oftentimes, if a question requires very, very specific information, they get forwarded to us. So use help@arts.ny.gov. apprenticeships.ny.gov for sure. One tip that I would like to share with you is if you end up submitting the same question to a number of us, that ends up jamming our lines a little bit. So make sure that you send it to one. If you send it to more than two, then alert us of that. Say, I sent this to Fabiana and Leanne, and that helps us move through the queues a lot faster and serve everybody a lot more efficiently. So let's see, for opportunity related questions, yes, you can reach out to us on our website. There's a contact tab. You can click on that and reach out to us. And we do urge you to reach out to us at least 2 weeks before the deadline. Do you remember when the deadline is, Leanne?
The deadline is July 13th at 4 o'clock, not 4.
That's right. That's right. So we want to hear your questions, by July 1st. So, of course, you can reach us with other questions after that. But if you really want to make sure you get an answer, and so that you can move forward, try to reach us a couple of weeks before the application deadline. Towards the end of the deadline, we're putting out a lot of fires, and so we're hoping that we're not putting out your fire. So, next.
I think that is it. We're wrapping. Oh no. Okay, this is my slide. I got mixed up. All our webinars are recorded and posted on the NYSCA website, so they're there for referral. We will be getting office hours very soon, so you will be seeing all of us yet again. So do check the website. We will be the website really is your go-to spot. That really will have. It's been redesigned. It's very digestible, so that will have really all the information that you need. You can certainly reach, and we encourage you to reach NYSCA staff beyond our office hours. As Fabiana said, our contact information is there. Reach out to us with any questions. And I think in terms of trying to figure out, well, who do I contact? I would think about the discipline, the art, the genre or discipline of the art work that you or your organization does primarily, what that objective is. For instance, if you're a dance company and you do you're a professional dance company and you're making new work, you might want to call either myself, I'm director of the dance program as well, or Debbie Lim, my colleague, and ask us questions. If you are a dance education, primarily a dance education organization, dance school, you may want to think about arts education as well. It isn't very definitive. It could really be either or, and we will help you to figure out really which panel may be best suited to, peer panel that may be best suited to review your application. So last official, pre-qualify, make sure you are pre-qualified. The Grants Gateway is literally the first gateway to NYSCA. So that business needs to be taken care of. And it does take a while. It is a process. If you don't have a vault, you're starting from scratch. Again, start yesterday. So
Leanne, I'm so glad that was actually the last point of the last slide, because the first question that has come in, if we're ready for questions, has to do with pre-qualification. How about, the master, the apprentice, the artist, do they have to pre-qualify? The answer is no. It's the applying organization that has to be pre-qualified, and only nonprofits can pre-qualify. Okay. So in this particular case for folk artist master, they would be applying through a fiscal sponsor perhaps, or an organization that is already a nonprofit that is pre-qualified, but the individual artist and the master do not. The pre-qualification does not pre-qualify individuals. It just simply doesn't. So no, you don't have to do that, but the organization that is applying on your behalf does.
Okay. Should we jump in? Are you in the Q&A?
No, I'm actually looking at the
chat.
Yes.
Okay, you're looking at the chat. I'm looking at the Q&A.
Sure.
I'm going to just answer a couple of these really quickly because they seem to be about rehearsal space. For space subsidy, are you allowed to make the opportunity available to new renters only so long as it's on a first come served basis, not a curated selection? It should not be under any circumstances a curated selection. Actually, it is available on a first come first served basis. We really, this is a wide open opportunity, so we do not necessarily want you to prioritize only new renters or only returning renters. It really is basically bottom line, first come, first serve. So you can serve both existing and new renters alike. Yes, residencies. They must take place in New York State. All of our funded activity must take place in New York State. And you are correct, not in your home county, if that is, or New York City, correct. Okay, Fabiana, you got a couple?
I do. Let's see, they're just moving so fast, right? Can a master apprentice pairing be funded for a follow-up year if they have been funded in 2023? So that is, and it depends, right? The priority is to be able to spread the funding as much as possible. So you would need to tell us how this is different, what it is that was accomplished the previous year and what you're hoping to accomplish the second year, perhaps, and how that's different. And yeah, so it depends.
Yeah. Bunch of residency questions that I see here. Can the artist residency be for music ensemble? Yes, it can be for music ensembles. That would be very cool. Does the residency opportunity have a match? Well, that's up to you. You know what we fund. If the residency costs more, that will be in the budget that you submit. You will convey that information in the budget that you submit. Hopefully the host organization, you are working collaboratively with the host organization. For the residency opportunity, the 3-week requirement. This is we want residents. We want you in a community for an extended period of time. So this is a 3-week residency in one location, working with one host organization, perhaps serving multiple communities within that host organization service area or region, but you are in residence, you are in residence for 3 weeks with one organization.
There's a question about, can a folk artist apply for support for artists and the folk arts apprenticeship? The answer is you can apply for both. The interesting thing is that the same panel reviews both. And so then the question of capacity may come up. So you're not banned from doing it. But if, let's just say that the apprenticeship will take a great deal of time for it to be accomplished, and then that person is also applying for an artist grant, then the question is, are they going to be able to do both in the way that that the panel will see as being a good, delivery of the services. So that's going to be a depend. So we're not telling you cannot do it, but it's going to be the same panel will see both proposals. Mm-hmm. And in some cases they may say, well, this proposal is stronger than this other proposal for the same artist, so they may decide that in order to spread the grants, that they may decide, well, let's fund the stronger one.
Okay, I'm looking here. Can we apply for rental space grant if our lease is up for renewal in 2024? Well, can you offer rehearsal space for the duration of the project period? That's really the big question. So it does depend on whether your space is available or not. That I can't completely answer. The organizations, I see the guidelines, organization wishing to apply for rehearsal and studio space are encouraged to contact program staff. Are there specific items we should be asking about or letting program staff know about? No, if you have questions, I believe I recognize your name, so I think you're an ongoing grantee. So if you want to tell us something new, you want to have any questions at all, that's when you should reach out. If not, if you got it, that's fine too, but if it makes you feel better to just touch base, I encourage you to do so. No problem. Fabiana.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, I would say give us as much context as possible. That usually helps us answer you more accurately. Certainly if you're asking about something that, in the past, you can say, I've been funded for this, and I'd like to know what's next or whatever. So give us all that little backstory a little bit more so that we can better guide you.
In opera, it's common to come to a rehearsal knowing the role. Can a creative rehearsal time serve those learning roles coaching, or must they apply only to those creating new work or rehearsing as an ensemble? Let me clarify this, or just underscore it again. The rehearsal and studio space opportunity is for organizations to offer rehearsal space to artists like you to rehearse or do whatever it is that they need to do. It is not for you to apply for rehearsal space so that you can rehearse your work somewhere. It's actually the other way around. But yes, if there is a subsidized rehearsal space organization accessible to you, you can certainly sign up for their hours and avail yourself of their subsidized rate, whatever that may be, and you can rehearse an ensemble, you can create new work. It is not for teaching, so coaching it's specifically addressed in our guidelines. It's not really to offer voice classes and that, or classes of any sort. It is really creative rehearsal time. So it kind of depends how that falls.
Leanne, one of the things that some of our applicants may not realize, especially in this category, is that feedback is available from previous proposals.
Oh, yeah.
So, so if you would like to hear the panel feedback on how things went last year or the previous year, definitely reach out to us. And sometimes that feedback helps craft your future proposals. Sometimes.
Yeah. We definitely encourage you to do so. Whether you were funded successfully or not, avail yourself of that feedback. Going back to the benefit of a peer panel review, that really is a great way to sort of understand how your work is viewed across your peers, basically. So and not that many funders actually offer that opportunity. So we really are encouraging you to avail yourself of it. I think it's incredibly helpful. So what other questions do we have here? Do you have a few more, Fabiana?
Yeah, and again, if the question is very, very specific to your situation, we may have to reach out to you directly. Yeah. Because it's not something that will help all the other applicants necessarily.
Yeah.
And again, the question about how do you access the feedback for the previous submissions, you reach out to the staff, you find out which panel reviewed your grant application, and then the staff will be able to share them with you via phone call. We do not share them via email. And because it's more of a conversation, and we paraphrase what went on in the panel discussions. So you reach out to us, and if you don't know who you reach out to, you send an email to help desk, and you say, I applied for XYZ, and I'd like to hear my panel comments, and you'll hear back from us.
Couple more residency questions for clarification. The 3-week residency requirement is continuous. It is, the intent is to really keep a company or an artist in a community for an extended period of time for a variety of different types of engagement and for the development of their work. So it is just that, a residency for 3 continuous weeks. The artist is the applicant generally, or the organization seeking the residency is the applicant. Hopefully they have identified and are working with a host organization. So I think that gets that. That seems to, yep. Okay, I seem to have gotten through that. Any other questions that you're getting on your end?
No.
No.
Pretty much rapid fire.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a question about the Smart Simple portal. Okay, so we've talked about Grants Gateway, right? And that's where the organizations will be pre-qualifying. So once you've done that, and the way sometimes I talk about Grants Gateway is like your driver's license. It's not the car, right? So you need to have your driver's license to drive your car, but they're not one and the same. The car and the driver's license are not. You just need both, right? So Grants Gateway, driver's license. Make sure you always have a valid one. That's how it works. And then NYSCA, I suppose, is the vehicle, the passenger vehicle where you're going to park your proposal. So you do one and you do the other and they work together, right? And so, okay, so the car is currently parked at Smart Simple. And Smart Simple is the website through which you will be applying. You'll see the link on our website. And it really is very smart and very simple. And you'll see, you may be surprised just how simple it is. Once you're done, you go like, that was it. So it goes fairly fast. The questions are already posted on our website if you want to work on them offline and then work on a Word document so that you can cut and paste. That's usually a good way to go in about it. Also, just in case you're working online and things disappear all of a sudden, you don't want that to be you. You know how painful that is if that's ever happened to you. So work offline and then cut and paste. Also, it's a good way to share the work with some of your colleagues if anybody's helping you put these proposals together. One of the things that I like to do is print out guidelines as a checklist and just go check, and make sure a lot of these questions a lot of the questions are coming through are actually in the guidelines. And if you use it as a checklist, then you'll know that you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's.
Yeah, I think hopefully we've covered all. We're at time now. If there are no more questions, I'm going to toss it over to Megan. But please do feel free to reach out to any of us. It's really been a pleasure to be with you all this morning.
Likewise.
Well, thank you, Fabiana and Leanne. That concludes today's webinar, marks the end of our webinar week. A reminder that this webinar has been recorded and will be posted on the NYSCA website along with the presentation deck. Our virtual office hours will launch next week and the schedule registration links will be posted on the NYSCA website later on this afternoon. So please check for that. Once again, thank you so much for joining us today. It's wonderful to share this virtual space with you. We look forward to receiving your applications by July 13th. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.